With the BBC News at 10 o'clock, I'm Chris Steers. The BBC understands the first asylum seekers will be moved onto the Bibby Stockholm barge in Dorset tomorrow after numerous delays. The government had planned to start using the vessel several weeks ago, but safety concerns had put the proposals on hold. Dan Johnson reports from Portland.
The grey floating accommodation block was towed here to Portland nearly 3 weeks ago, but it's been sitting empty since then because of concerns about the risk of a fire on board and other health and safety issues which needed to be addressed. Now Home Office sources say everything's ready. There have been local protests and wider opposition to the conditions migrants will face. Ministers say the vessel offers safe but basic functional accommodation. They point to its previous roles housing oil and gas workers and asylum seekers in other countries. The key difference is that its capacity has been doubled to 500. 50 men are expected to be housed here initially, with the number rising over coming weeks.
Virgin Atlantic pilots belonging to the Belper Union have shown overwhelming support for a strike ballot, following what they've called serious concerns about fatigue and their well-being. The union held a consultative vote on pursuing its dispute with the airline over working conditions. Virgin said it was looking forward to having a healthy discussion about the matter with its pilots. Police are investigating the death of a 12-year-old on the M62 in West Yorkshire. The boy was hit near Clackeaton last night by a vehicle that didn't stop as he made his way from the central reservation to the hard shoulder after a separate crash. Investigations are ongoing. A vicar from Wiltshire is heading to Uganda this week, loaded up with surplus mobile phones. The Reverend Robert DeBarry first visited the country more than 60 years ago. He says even the poorest people there need a mobile phone to do their work.
People can find out where the best prices are for their sorghum or their maize or their rice or whatever they're growing. And almost everybody, even though they may outwardly appear pretty poor, manages to have a mobile phone. And so I've been requested to bring some out. And I'm a bit inundated with them at the moment. I don't want any more.
Warner Brothers says the Barbie movie has made more than $1 billion worldwide, only 17 days after it was released. That means Greta Gerwig has become the first woman to reach the milestone as a solo director. A Somerset garden designed especially for children is opening free to the public next weekend. The garden, created by Lara Honor, is about trying to get kids into gardening early. She says it's an important life skill.
The school beans allotment, I actually designed it especially for children, so it's very colourful. It's a bit like going into Alice in Wonderland magical world, especially for adults, because it's all at children's height and size. In the sport, Arsenal have won the Community Shield. They saw off Manchester City 4-1 on penalties at a tense Wembley Stadium. And the Netball World Cup, it wasn't to be for England as Australia beat them 45-61 in the final. It's Australia's 12th World Cup. You're up to date with the latest BBC News. It's 3 minutes past 10.
Hello. Hello. Hello, how do?
Good evening. How are you?
BBC Radio Manchester.
0800 218 2255. If you join us, that's good. Pick up your phone, have your say, talk about absolutely anything. We're here until 1 o'clock and then we're gone until next Saturday night at 10, because we just do Saturday and Sunday because, well, it's too hard, isn't it? You don't want to be doing hard work and long hours and all that's just not good for the human, and I'm very nearly human. So 0800 what do you mean? 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you'd be very welcome. Some of the things in the papers today. The investigation into the SNP's finances continues, with questions being asked about some stuff allegedly bought, such as Mont Blanc pens. I've got one of them. My wife bought me an implement thus years ago. I'm not even Scottish. Tony Blackburn reveals that his daughter told him that she didn't want him to DJ at her wedding because he's far too cheesy. He said, like the old trooper he is, I wouldn't mind, but I even offered her a discount. That parenting malarkey, it's just give, isn't it? And Labour has suggested that they would have no choice but to continue to use the former military camps and hotel barges that are coming into use tomorrow, we are told, to house illegal immigrants. So it would seem, you say, vote Labour and change nout. Not much of a slogan, really, is it? But then the election's a long way away. And Archers fans are whining because the show featured a vet putting down a dog. It's kind of what vets do, isn't it, you know? I didn't hear the piece. I don't listen to the Archers anymore. I imagine it went something like this. Woof, 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 woof. Maybe not. One paper reckons that the BBC sent out a staff diversity survey that didn't include heterosexual as one of the possible genders. So is that why they're dumping me? Because I know what sort of willy I've got. It does seem harsh. I told you last night that athletes training for triathlons don't train off the Lancashire coast because the sea is just a very dilute solution of diarrhoea. I learned from the Observer newspaper today that such an event did take place off the coast of Sunderland. And 57 people fell ill with what seems to be an E. coli type infection. We're absolutely surrounded by this stuff. And staff are being laid off at a firm which employs Prince Harry. And they pay him a reported 7-figure sum. Count them. That's £1 million minimum. 7 figures, isn't it? Anyway, you kind of wonder what he does for the cash, don't you? And his staff colleagues certainly do. His job title is Senior Impact Officer, which, I don't know about you, but it means absolutely nothing to me. But I reckon his brother would be, William, you know, would be more than happy to help out with a rather specific bit of impact right on the end of his no longer royal nose. Because it's a bit of a rats in a sack at the minute, isn't it? As the spoiled brats squabble, their two-timing daddy tries to... I watched a video of them making that. Not all of it. I mean, I got bored quite quickly. But they were all in separate glass cupboards, which I suppose is how they protect the sort of sound layover, isn't it, really? Very weird. Anyway, who cares? 0800 218 2255. You want to join us? Good. We're here till 1. Talk about absolutely anything. How do Tony?
Hi, Alan. You okay?
I'm very well, thank you.
I tried to get through last night, but my phone was playing up. You was talking about the Voyager with some callers.
Voyager 2, I think it is, yeah?
Went out in 1977.
Yeah.
Where's that time gone?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer. Where does time go?
2 billion miles.
It turns out I missed out a 1. It's 12 billion miles.
Oh, yeah, you did. You missed 12 billion, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How long does it take for the signal to come back from that to Earth?
I don't know. But quite a while, I would imagine.
I've not got my calculator, but 187,000 miles. Is it an hour speed of light?
A second.
Sure.
I don't know whether electronic transmissions travel at the same speed as light. It wouldn't surprise me if they do, but it's still an awful long way. I mean, it took moments at least, for signals to come back from the moon. So from Voyager, I would imagine it's quite a bit longer. It's quite a bit further, isn't it, really?
That'd be a couple of years.
It won't be that long. It won't be that long because they knew they'd lost contact with it, and they sent it the wrong command apparently, and thus lost contact with it. I don't think it takes a couple of years, but a good while for sure.
It'd be interesting to know if you've got one of your callers can come back with that information.
They may well be able to. They're full of utterly useless information, aren't they?
And the thing was, Alan, if it's you mentioned when it left the sunlight, it's relied on batteries, was it?
It's just a presumption. I can't imagine it being anything else.
Well, the sunlight it must have lost many years ago, but it might be in planets where there's better sunlight. Does that make sense? Stronger sunlight. Well,
it has left our solar system, so it's no longer in our solar system. But I don't suppose it's like a wall. It's not like walking through a black curtain. On the other side, there's darkness. And by that I mean no sun. So there's presumably a bit, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm just wondering how many McDonald's it might have found on other planets, or KFCs and...
It's not reported any, but, you know, it may be hanging on to its information. I've checked, and it takes more than 18 hours for the command, any command they send to Voyager 2, takes more than 18 hours for it to
that's very quick.
To hear back. So it could be nine going, 9 coming back. Do you know what I mean?
That's quick. I'm very surprised with that.
Well, it's certainly quick. I mean, I wouldn't want to wait that long for a reply. But it depends who I was communicating with. Some people I communicate with, I don't ever want a reply.
Now, you just mentioned at the top of your programme the boat that's coming in.
The hotel ship, yeah.
500...
Hotel barge.
Yeah, the barge. 500 people.
Yeah.
Why are they all men?
Well, if they weren't all men, I don't know is the answer again. If they weren't all men that they were putting on there, then they would have to have facilities for both genders. They'd have to have some kind of separation for each of the genders. And if there were families, then they'd have to have facilities for children and the like. So it's a lot easier to house a load of blokes than it is to house a load of different gendered people.
What about families? Men with a wife and kids.
Thank you. I did know what a family was, but I'm grateful to you for the definition. It's helped a lot. But they are housed elsewhere. They will continue to be housed in the ways they are currently housed. But single men, and most of the people arriving apparently are single men. By that I don't mean they're not married, I mean they are travelling alone. They can be accommodated easily in that kind of accommodation, more easily than if you, as I say, had mixed genders.
OK, Alan. That'll do me, mate. I'll see you next time I phone you.
Well, it's a magic phone if you do, but I know what you mean. Have a good night. How do, Neil?
Oh, hello, Alan. I was looking I could put you on the TV, you know, I was watching on TV, and it was a film, Barbie Girl, on the news, that was it, yeah, your news at 10 o'clock, and then he said the Barbie Girl, in 17 days, something about the first, to take $1 billion, yes. At the box office.
I think they said it was the first woman director to do so.
Well, that's that's the point, you see. Why did they have to say woman director?
Well, that was because it was directed by a woman, and no other film directed by a woman has achieved that result. So it is the first of it. But it possibly
so is that
isn't
special or something?
Well, I think most women think being a woman is special. I've never been one, so I can't speak on their behalf and won't try to.
Yeah. But Alan,
there may well be. I'll answer your question if you shut your mouth. It may well be. Good night. How do, Lindsay?
Hello, good evening. I just want to know, driving on main road and people that turn into side roads, they don't seem to indicate.
Well, there is a propensity of people that don't indicate whatever the hell they're doing.
You must think the driver behind the sight. That's all I can say.
I think you're giving them more credence than they deserve. I don't think they think. I think they're too stupid to.
They are stupid. They could cause an accident by doing that.
Of course they could. I have this thought frequently when I see someone make a manoeuvre in a vehicle without signalling, and it is this.
Yeah.
That person, presuming they've at some point passed a driving test, will have had to signal every single thing they were going to do, because they'd failed the test if they didn't. So their driving instructor, and I used to be one, has inculcated into them the habit of signalling. You don't get them so they have to, do I need to signal here? You get it so that they signal instinctively because it's part of turning the steering wheel. And so at some point, that driver has passed the test signalling instinctively, and then later thinks, I'm not going to signal here because it makes me too tired. I mean, this lever, I have to move my fingers, and it makes it so, it's just awful. So they're utterly stupid.
And I hope anyone listening who doesn't signal can start signaling when you need to.
Indeed. There was a situation some years ago when the advanced motoring test required that a person didn't signal if they checked out the road before and after and the road they were turning into or what have you, and there was nobody there. And I used to have arguments with the guy from the advanced motoring thing, because he said, if there's nobody there, who are you signalling to? And my argument was, that's a policy of perfection. Because, yes, you check, you look right, you look left, you look behind you, you look in your mirror, you do all those things. You don't see anybody, you don't signal. But what if you didn't see somebody that is there, for whatever reason? You are now not informing them what you're going to do. Far easier to signal unnecessarily than to not signal when it was more necessary than you thought it was. So my argument is signal always.
It's the same with pedestrians, though. You know, like if I'm walking, I'm on foot, and they're not signaling when I'm crossing the road. So I think, I can go. Then the last minute they'll put the signal on, and I think they're shouting at me, you stupid, whatever. I say, well, you haven't got your indicator on, so, you know, I'm not sighted. How can they see you? You're turning my way.
If you're crossing a junction as a pedestrian and a car turns into that junction, the law is that you have the right of way because you're on the road, and the car has the obligation to stop. But the one-ton cretins don't know that these days.
All right, thank you. That's all.
Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. Here's Van the Man. Yeah. That gravelly bit in the middle. He sounded a bit like Snottle Durant. You remember that? I played on my piano. Hello. Yeah. Jimmy Durante. There's no business like show business. Yeah. Brilliant. 0800 218 2255. How do Ted?
Been placed on hold.
Ted.
Please wait.
Oh, no. 0800 218 2255. The phone's on hold. Please wait. Yeah, right, that's going to happen, isn't it? The Home Secretary is quoted as saying that lawyers who help migrants to cheat the system should get jailed. I wonder what she thinks should happen to Home Secretaries who are frequently told by the courts that they're acting illegally. Stop the boats! Stop the boats! Stop the boats! Where are all these boats coming from? France. 0800 218 2255. Want to join us, you can. Pick up your phone, talk about absolutely anything. We don't mind. We have very little shame. Well, I have absolutely none. Tomorrow's newspapers are fairly interesting on the front pages. The Guardian, MPs defy anger over second jobs with outside earnings of 10 million. Just for the record, that's not each. No. Met baton rounds only authorised for black-led gatherings. That's disturbing. So a load of white people are... it can't be true. A load of white people are doing whatever it is they do, parading or whatever, doing something that really upsets the Met, and they can't shoot a baton round at them. Rubber bullets, we used to call them, didn't we? But we can if they're black. That is disturbing in the extreme, isn't it? How well you sleep is a postcode lottery. Everywhere I've lived, I've slept okay, so postcodes must follow me. Daily Telegraphs, bosses who hire illegal migrants face ruin. So's the beggar's right. Listen, I'm not saying that migrants shouldn't be allowed to work, and there's a very strong argument that says we've got an awful lot of jobs that need doing. Getting some of these migrants to do them wouldn't be a bad idea. But bosses who hire illegal migrants face ruin because they're going to get done. And the reason they get done is because usually if you're hiring somebody who is an illegal immigrant, if you're aware of it, you're probably paying them less than you would pay an indigenous individual. So that's where sort of rattles around. NatWest limits access to cash for certain customers. The banks have taken it upon themselves, haven't they, to be the be-all and end-all of everything. It's extraordinary. They decide who's going to have money. And except for overdrafts and loans, it ain't their money. It's not their money. If I go into the bank and say, can I have every penny out of my account, it's my money. Whether I want a fiver or whether I want all of it, the full 20 quid, it's my money. It's not their right to say to me no. They can say, are you sure? Because sometimes, people are sort of forced into going and getting cash for other individuals as part of a crime. And yes, the banks are right to be careful about that. But to say, we're not giving you that much, you look a bit iffy to me, sod off. No. You've got my money, I want it back. That's fair. Speaking of back, Ted.
All right, Alan, just to say, all the governments, Alan, all the governments.
I'm aware of what governments are, yes. I can, yes.
All the governments in the House of Parliament, all of them posted 2 years ago 50% rise, and they all got it. Now, the workers last week, the nurses, got 6%. What's that about where they get 50% and we vote them in to help us? That's what the game's about. When it looks like they're helping themselves with the 50% rise.
To be honest, I don't think MPs did get a 50% rise 2 years ago.
I've seen it, Alan.
Well, you may well have seen it, but you...
Parliament TV.
Right, saying that MPs had voted themselves a 50% rise.
Yeah, and right at the same time, you all put the hands up, whoop.
Yes, I know how the voting works. We're discussing what the vote was. I don't think MPs gave themselves a 50% rise. In other words, their wages went from 80,000 a year to 120,000 a year. That would be a 50% rise. I don't think they did. Okay, you're right. You're right. I'm wrong. Have a good night. How do you, Mark?
Oh, hello, Alan. Good evening. Nice to be on the show. If I may, Alan, may I just quickly talk? A gentleman famously in the limelight, but you may even say, who was he? He passed away about 3 days ago. Carl Davis, the composer. Does it ring a bell, Alan?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Carl Davis, just for the listeners, he just to put them in the picture, he famously wrote all that beautiful music for the Thames television series The World at War, that theme tune that a lot of people remembered. And, of course, he was also famous as well. He brought the silent films back to life. He did all the scores for the Chaplin films like Gold Rush, the Ben-Hur, the original epic film. And when you went to see them at the Philharmonic Hall in Liverpool, the whole orchestra were all dressed in their black polo necks, and the picture was up on the screen. Yeah. But Alan, what I'm saying is, for instance, the chariot race in Ben-Hur, the silent version, wow, when he hit that baton in the orchestra, it was absolutely brought the film totally to life, and it was absolutely brilliant. Another one, Alan, that we went to see, and I just checked on the date of it, 1923 it was made, so it's 100 years old this year. And Alan, at 2,000-seater hall, the Philharmonic Hall, there wasn't a seat empty. It was sold out. Never mind Barbie, the movie. This was Harold Lloyd hanging off the clock in Safety Last. Do you remember that one, Alan?
Well, remember from seeing it on television. I don't remember it from the day, as it were.
Yeah, it was the famous one where he climbs the building. He did all the stunts, hanging off the clock there. And, as I say, and it was sold out. Whenever he did concerts like that, they were absolutely sold out. He was so popular. Another beautiful film score he wrote, Alan, was for the film called Champions, about the jockey, Bob Champion. brilliantly played by John Hurt in the film, and of course a lot of it was shot at Aintree in Liverpool. The music for that album, where they're on the final race at the end, it's called Grand National, the piece of music. Wow, it's absolutely superb. And basically,
he had quite a...
Sorry, Alan.
He had quite a connection to Liverpool, did he not?
Well, yeah, Alan, if I may say, of course, you're probably aware of this, the connection, and really, funny enough, I always thought they were like chalk and cheese. He was married to her since 1970, bless her, you know, and obviously she's still going strong, and we send the condolences to the family. He married to Jean Boht, of course, who was Nellie Boswell in Bread.
Yeah. And he was also he was the conductor at the Liverpool Philharmonic.
Yes, absolutely, yeah, and of course CBE, and he's won BAFTAs and all sorts. And you know, Alan, whenever we went to see the concerts and that at the Philharmonic Hall, Jean would often accompany him, you know, to the concerts, and he'd do all the gig and you know, the full show. And at the end, he was always lovely. He'd chat to the fans and sign the books and the CDs. Lovely. I got a great picture taken with him many years ago. I was looking at it the other day. How younger we both looked on it, and the funny thing, Alan, was Jean. I mean, you know, he's a great man of music. And I'd be talking to Jean, and she was so, you know, down to earth. And I said, hello, Mrs. Boht, like that. Oh, Jean, loved you. I said, wasn't that a great show tonight? And she'd give you like a nudge with her elbow. Listen, Chuck, will you, for God's sake, go over and tell him it was good. We'll never hear the end of it otherwise. And she was so, you know, down to earth about it all and everything else. But the little gripe Alan was, you know, all that wonderful music and films, and he's so well known. I know a lot of people might say he was, and he did. You know, I know you get a lot of the papers, Alan. I couldn't see one mention of this man in any of the papers at all. I even looked on the entertainment guide, you know, on the index on the BBC, where they'll mention anything to do with the entertainment, and he wasn't even mentioned on that. And I just thought, well, you know, how big have you got to be to even get a mention now with the way it's going? You know.
Well, I seem to remember that many of the newspapers I read mentioned his death, and I think also he was. I mean, I may be wrong, but I think he was in the relevant section of the Guardian. I think.
Do you know what, Alan? I was just going to jump in and say probably. I mean, I didn't pick that one up or even look to check. But yeah, prominent sort of people of this sort of genre in the music business. He probably did get a mention in that. You recollect seeing something in there about him? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I was interested because I too have seen him at the Philharmonic.
Yeah,
and have always enjoyed that, and I was aware of, you know, his marriage to Jean Boht because I live in the northwest in the media, you know, so you know those.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. What Alan, do you remember, just out of interest, what did you go to see at the Philharmonic? Was it one of the silent films, or was it like a concert?
No. It was a concert. It was a Philharmonic performance. I can't remember what they were doing. You know. Right,
and another one, and in the latter years, Alan, brilliantly, and they sort of bounced off one another. He did a great music night. It was just called, you know, it was James Bond at the movies, doing all the Bond movies. And what was great about it was because he was conducting, but who was sitting next to him on a lovely sort of high stool in a gorgeous sort of gold dress was the lovely Pussy Galore. Honor Blackman was hosting the whole event. Yeah, and they. Oh, do you know what? They bounced off one another, and, you know, and she's that lovely speaking voice that she had saying about, oh, you know, rolling in the hay with Sean Connery, girls, I can assure you, was something I'll never forget. And it was just yeah, it was a lovely moment. But, you know, and on the news just now, I think one of your callers mentioned that this Barbie film, they're calling it Barbarilla now. It's made £1 billion in 17 days. But I can assure you, Alan, that film I mentioned, the Harold Lloyd film, that will be, it's 100 years old, and if they run it next week and he was out, that would fill them out. They won't be running the Barbie film in 100 years' time and filling cinemas. These films, you know, they stand the test of times. Once they've done this, Mark, I mean, I'm very pleased for the cinemas, and it's done well. It's not my type of film, and I'm glad it's put people into the cinemas. But, you know, it'll be on DVD in about 2 months' time. You'll be able to buy it, and then that'll be it. That'll be the end of it.
But if But if Harold Lloyd was making films now, his films would be on DVD and on the television months later, because that's how it's done now.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, obviously, all the films, the classic Chaplin, Gold Rush, and the Harold Lloyds, they are all available on DVD. Obviously.
Well, I know, but the point I was making was if you, I mean, you say you seem to be denigrating the Barbie film, and I've not seen it, so what the hell? But the Barbie film will be on telly quite soon through one of the sources, because they've got all these places where you have to pay to watch them. And whatever film comes out now, they used to say it went to video in a few weeks, and that meant it were crap. But now they go to video in a few weeks, whether they're crap or brilliant, because the telly wants them, you know, the Netflix and all that lot want them, Sky Movies want them, so that they can make some money out of them. And the production companies want them on the telly because it's constant money for the rest of time.
Well, exactly, Alan. And of course, if the films come out and certain ones in the past have fell down and died a death, well, they'll get them out even quicker to the home market to try and, you know, pull some money in. I mean, with all the writers and actors, the strikes on at the moment, this is going to push the industry back again a good few months. So what you're going to be getting now is there'll be no new films sort of coming out, but you watch, there'll be a hold on that, and they'll have to reissue, you know, some of the oldies again to sort of fill the screens because of the strike at the moment.
Unfortunately, the oldies have not been unissued, have they? You can get virtually any film you want now on somewhere on the internet or on Sky or on Netflix or whatever. You can get virtually anything.
Yeah, and of course it was up against that weekend, Barbie, with the one about the atomic bomb, David Nolan's film Oppenheimer. Yeah, but Alan, the money, you know, the production, it's shot in IMAX, this big screen thing, and the money and the special effects he threw at that, and this Barbie film with pink, all dressed in pink, has left this Oppenheimer film standing, and probably the cost of that was a fraction to what, you know, he's put that together. But it just shows you, I remember years ago, Alan, because I worked in the cinemas as a projectionist, years ago, a film came out called The Full Monty. It cost absolutely buttons to make.
It's just started being... Oh, you've disappeared. Mark, suddenly won. The Full Monty, he's right, it cost buttons to make, and it did awfully well. It was a box office hit. And The Full Monty, not the film, but a sort of 30-odd years onwards, is now on the telly in a series of 1 hour programmes. I think there are 3 of them coming, not sure, but you can see the Full Monty. They've had the stage play, and now they're doing the Full Monty TV serial, which might be worth a look. I think it would have trouble to match the wit of the original one, but there you are. 0800 218 2255. Carl Davis, former Liverpool Philharmonic conductor, married, as you heard, to Jean Boht, divorced also from Jean Boht, who was the lead actor in Bread, which was phenomenally successful for about a decade on the telly. I never really enjoyed it, but there you are. 0800 218 2255. How do Shafik?
I'm okay, my dear friend Alon. Yeah, today 6 August, I can't forget, because it's my dad birthday, man, and Second World War time, yes, atomic bomb in drop in Japan, Hiroshima, and nuclear bomb also. And I like to talk about the Bible, my friend. Old Bible on New Testament, first of all is a one church, one faith, one Lord. I mean, one God house, one religion, one Lord mean one ruler. Lord is our Christ. Jesus Christ is our Lord. He is a great ruler. I like to talk about the Putin. Putin, he want to part of Ukraine land. He need to go court. If court give the decision, he can take it. Otherwise, he can't. He can do that. When I was joined my Burnley hometown in Burnley College in 1991, I think Putin was that time is a KGB secret team in Russia. He was student. And I seen the Gorbachev that time is the Soviet Union leader. When he divided, Soviet Union divided. Yeah, okay. If Russia, Putin he's a great politician or great ruler, he must be take out one constitution like 2002, 1st July. That constitution only one page. Kofi Annan knew that. Kofi Annan happy.
Right.
Kofi Annan is the United Nations Secretary General.
I'm fed up now. We've been in 4 countries and 3 gods. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. This is Fields of Gold. Have taken a poll, and 74%, according to tomorrow's Daily Mirror, 74% demand action on endangered dogs. The public backs the Mirror's campaign for an overhaul of the law to tackle horror attacks. Now, 74% is a hell of a majority. But imagine you get the phone call for the poll and you're asked the question, do you want action over dangerous dogs? 26% of people who were asked that question said no. So 26% of the people asked the question, do you want action on dangerous dogs that shred kiddies to death with their vile teeth, said no. How? What? How? Do you want dangerous dogs to be controlled? No, thank you. A quarter of the people asked that question said, no, I don't. The world's gone balmy. Front page of the Times, pupils and parents are braced for 100,000 fewer top A-level grades. Sir Keir Starmer says the Just Stop Oil tactics are contemptible, and the Tories seek Plan B for Rwanda if the policy fails. Oh dear, where are they going to send them if they can't send them there? They'll have to send them somewhere. They certainly don't want them here, do they? How do, Joe?
Hi. It's about, I want to talk about the pollution of the atmosphere.
Okay.
Now, listen to this. The farmers are going out of business because the cows are said to be polluting the atmosphere with burping. I'm sure aeroplanes cause much more pollution. And what would we do without milk and cheese? And thinking about you, what about ice cream? Where would you get your ice cream from if there were no cows?
That would be a terrible consequence. I tried some vegan ice cream the other day. It was bloody awful. So we must save the cows. I agree with you that farmers are definitely going out of business. It's horrendous, but I'm not altogether sure. I'm not altogether sure it's because they're bothered about the cow burps. I think it's because they're getting screwed over by the supermarkets and all those sorts of people.
Well, probably other things, and it's worrying that young people aren't or can't afford to set up in agriculture or dairying. No. That was my thing, and I thought other people might be interested.
They might. Yeah. I mean, we lose our farmers at our peril, because if you lose farmers, then you've got to start importing food, and then, as we just found out with the oil and the gas, you're in hock to somebody who doesn't like you. I mean, look at what's happening with wheat. Wheat prices are about to start to rocket again, because Russia has said we're not allowing that. They had a sort of truce, didn't they, over wheat, and now they've just withdrawn the truce. So, price of bread's going to go up.
Oh, it is. Dear goodness. Well, no, I'll tell you what bothers me most the price of ice cream. You and your favourite thing.
I know it's not been a good year for ice cream. Delicious stuff, but it's been bloody dear.
Oh, I think I'm up.
Yes, it's gone up a couple of times.
I thought it goes down at your house.
I know it does, yes, it goes down far too quickly. Good on you, Joe.
Yeah,
Lovely
okay.
to talk to you. Farmers are going out of business for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is, and we discussed supermarkets last night and what disgusting robbing dogs they are, he said politely. And the truth is they're doing farmers over, and farmers can no longer afford to be a farmer. And they're getting out. They're leaving the business. And you do. You know, if you watch Country File, I have to tell you, by the way, well, I don't have to tell you, but I will. Round about July, I stopped watching Country File. I quite like Country File. But I cannot bear the fact that from July till Christmas, we have to have them bleating on about the bloody photograph competition and the calendar and all that. Shut up about it. I know the money goes to children in need, and it's heartless of me to say I get sick to the back teeth of them droning on about it, but it's bloody annoying, you know. They wheel out Craven, who I'm sure has been dead for about 5 years. He's got a stick up his bum. They wheel him out on one of them sack trolleys. He drivels on about, with them teeth of his, you know, Tombstone Ted, drivels on about bloody calendar and for children in need. Why would anyone in their right mind buy the damn Children in Need calendar, given that we've seen all the photos, haven't we? You know, you can't sit there on the on the 31st of August and think, oh, I wonder what the September picture's going to be. I can't wait. I really can't. Oh, that one, yeah, 12 million people saw that one on the telly. OK, well, we get to the 30th of September then. What's the October one like? Bloody hell, that's been on the telly as well. Who in the right mind buys the damn calendar? You want to, if you're going to have a picture calendar, you want a bit of surprise, don't you? Don't you? Oh, well, it must just be me, because millions buy it. I think they're all barking. Absolutely barking. Maybe they're just giving a donation. Maybe, you know, Country File have realised that they won't send them money without they send them out some junk, and the calendar's junk. I mean, picture calendars are daft anyway, but I mean, God bless us. Why do you buy one that's been on the telly every week since bloody June? What's the point? You don't... No. You don't get a calendar just so you know what date it is. Otherwise, you just buy one of them that hasn't got pictures. No, you're buying the pictures. Oh, look at that little piggy. Look at that. He's dead now. We've had him for tea. But he's still a little piggy. No, he's not. He's dead. Well, what about the doves then? There aren't any bloody doves. They're just pigeons that have fallen in the flower. Bloody thing. Anyhow, there you are. Who cares? Not me. I won't be buying one this year either. But I do. I honestly, I like Country File. I sit there and I watch it, and then we get the mention of it, you know, here we go. Hey, brace yourself. Here he is. Craven's coming. Ta-da! Calendar. I'm off. So no, I don't watch it now. I won't watch it now till about February, because they have to do all that stuff about it's coming, and then from January, February, they tell you how much they made, like we give a toss. Weird. 0800 218 2205. Yes, I've gone all impartial overnight. Fleetwood Mac, they've got dreams. They're all right, aren't they, them? They're all right. Yeah. They had their squabbles, but then pop bands do, don't they? I went for a stroll today. You couldn't call it a walk. I didn't go very far. In fact, most of where I went was a drive from our house to a place called... Okay, listen, can I just apologise to all Welsh people or Welsh speakers, because I will mispronounce this. I won't try to, but that's what happens. I went to a place called Felinelli. I apologise. I can't do any more than that. Felinelli. It's just north of Carnarvon, a bit north of Carnarvon. South of Bangor, north of Carnarvon, on the coast. A nice little harbour there, a little walk round. I've been there before. And I went and had a look at the boat yard. There's a big boat yard that's always worth a look, because you've got some fairly large boats in there being mended, so that's good. And there's a sailing club, which obviously I'm not a member of, and if I had a boat, they probably wouldn't let me. And I walked past that. And then There used to be. Now, there's no connection between this story and what I'm about to tell you. This was not the reason for the trip. The reason for the trip was I wanted a little walk along the coast, nice and steady. But there used to be a truck selling ice cream. And it often turns out that when I go out for a stroll, there's a truck selling ice cream. It's just a coincidence, I promise you. Honest. Anyway, in Fellinelli, there was this truck, but I went this time, it's gone. I was really disappointed. And then I noticed a cafe that I hadn't noticed before. It's only open Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I thought, well, I'll go and have a coffee at the very... And it said they sell ice cream. It's not the same as getting it from a truck. It's just, you used to get it from the truck when you were a kid, didn't you? It rings his bell. Yeah, it was a bell in my day. Ding, ding, ding. And you go... And that was what set it all going. So I used to like getting it off the truck. Anyway, so I went into the cafe. And I thought, well, I'll have a coffee. And they had cakes. And... you go in these places and you think, oh, yeah, there's the cakes. There they are. They're all the same. Every cafe you go and they've got it, haven't they? That chocolate thing that they make out of, like, mud till it goes hard. You know the one. Yeah. And then the even the lemon drizzle. I'm quite fond of a lemon drizzle. We have that, and you think, well, I'm not bothering with that. And there's the batter breath, which is basically malt loaf without the sins. And so that's all right. And then I saw something I haven't seen in a cafe for years. A Viennese whirl. It's like, I thought I'm having one of them. And it's like, you probably know, well, just in case you don't. And it's a little bit of jam, and a little bit of cream, and then it's like, what is it like? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to it. I don't know why I asked it. It's like a very light shortbread, a top and bottom. So it's like a little sandwich of it's not shortbread, really, really light shortbread type of texture with a bit of cream and a bit of jam. And I've not seen them for years. I mean, you can get them, Mr. Kipling probably does them, but, I'm talking about in a cafe, freshly made, not from some plastic bag. And so I bought one. Whoa. It was whizzer. Honestly, I mean, maybe it was a nostalgia. Maybe I was just, gone wonky. Maybe I was in the mood for one. Maybe it was a surprise. I don't know. Maybe it was having something I enjoyed, having just been disappointed over an ice cream. I don't know. But I had this Viennese whirl, and it was bloody good, I tell you. It was fabulous. And they're only tiny. They're only the size of an half crown. A little bit. But you don't know what half crown is, I don't blame you. About the size of an aerosol lid. Well, there you go. So there it is. And it was very tasty. And the coffee was all right as well, because I'm quite picky about coffee. So it was quite Fellinelli. I know, and then I drove back through the countryside and the like, so that was nice. How do you pronounce it? Does anyone know? I mean, Welsh people know, but, mugs like me don't. 0800 218 2255. How do Arnold?
I'm trained, as an electrician. I trained in bricklaying and flagging. I'm going to change that one in the shop. Curry factory. I've known self-employment. What day is the time on? Do you know yet?
No.
Date?
I don't know yet.
How long what year did you start on?
I'll have to do the sums. About 1980.
All right.
Full time, that's when I
was 17 and how old was you then in that day?
Pardon?
How old was you in 1980? I was 17.
I was 75 minus 43.
Yeah.
So 32.
Yeah.
I was not but a lad.
Hey? Yeah.
I was not but a lad.
Yeah. Working out. What have you been working on today? You read the papers or? On the paper?
Yeah, I've read the papers today, yeah.
You listen to radio when you're not working. You tune into. What do you think of the enemy cases, mate?
I'm losing. Say that again. What do I think of?
What am I allowed to? What station you listen to? Or will you be allowed to?
Radio 4. Radio 4.
Oh, yeah. Well, you couldn't believe that, Alan, when I told you last year that they've got a tip on at 7:30 in the morning. Horse racing tip. 2 horses to give out. 7:30 every morning. Radio 4.
Well, I couldn't believe you, but I've known for years that that's what they do. I hear it nearly every day, but go on.
Yeah. I was going to win today. We had a virtual horse racing.
No.
Virtual cartoon.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I had two to win. 2 to win, and it was come up. I got 30. Oh, Watford won 4-0 today, Alan. Watford Football Club. They won. Championship started up again. Last night, Southampton won 2-1 at Sheffield Wednesday.
Okay.
Charity Shield today. 1-1 Man City, Arsenal.
Yeah, but they had a shootout, didn't they? Didn't they have a penalty shootout at the end?
Oh, so there was a winner. Who was the winner? Who won it?
Whoever they were playing, it wasn't Manchester City. It was the other lot. I think it was Arsenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's on Arsenal. Yeah. Well, Arsenal won, so that's the underdogs won. Man City.
If you say so.
Oh, yeah, well, Man City. They used to have a Main Road. They had a Kipax and on Main Road, Manchester.
Yeah.
Man United won't move ground. They'll stay at Old Trafford, won't they?
I suspect so. I mean, they did the ground up 20 odd years ago, but it needs doing again. So you never know what might happen.
New cantilever. Yeah. How are you? Are you all right? How's your health?
I'm always well. My health is fine.
You don't get headaches, or do you ever get on migraines?
No.
How's your skin? You got no. Your skin's allowed to over the body.
It covers the whole of my body, which is all I really ask of it, and nothing leaks in and nothing leaks out, except through the orifice where it's required to.
The hair, the fingernails, the toenails are like dead skin, aren't they? Really, the hair's like dead skin. I've been told.
Well, the hair, I don't know, it's dead skin, but it's certainly it's dead once it's appeared. It's not alive anymore.
I'll tell you what hurts. I want to be pugilistic. A punch in the kidneys, on the back, lower back, that hurts.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah. Dead legs. You ever tried that, dead legs?
I've got a few dead legs playing rugby, yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Who did you play for in the day?
A variety of teams as I moved around.
Yeah. What position was you on, flanker?
Yeah.
Oh, right, I got that right. Yeah. What was your biggest ever? Oh, England women. They might win the World Cup. It's in Australia, isn't it, and New Zealand?
Yes, it is. And they might. Then again, they might not.
Yeah. I know. Who else left in it? Is it semi-finals now?
I don't know.
No. Well, they beat China. They beat Haiti 1-0. Can't say it. And then they played Denmark. Yeah. So, what are you going to do in retirement? You've got a lot to do yet before you retire. Retirement.
Well, I only have to find something to do with 6 hours. I only work 6 hours a week, so I think I've probably got enough to do. Yeah. Anyway, Arnold, it's been a delight.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome. You can talk about absolutely anything. You can even educate me in how to pronounce E. Fellinelli. Fenny Helly. Fenny Helly, it's not Nelly, it's Helly. Oh, hell. Well, yeah, Helly. Never mind. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, that's good. No, I'm not going through that. No, I'm not. I did all that about the ferry and explaining that, and when I said Mr. Ferry, I'm not doing it again. Wasn't funny the first time. I'll do Trevor.
I mean, you do often repeat yourself, Alan. I don't see why I should stop doing that. Anyway.
Only when I don't notice.
Anyway, when all this nonsense comes to an end, whenever it does,
indeed,
I shall miss the variety of fascinating things we hear about. So last night, the story about prison living costs being deducted from wrongly convicted criminals' compensation was broken on your show almost ahead of the news sources, as it were, which is
that was it. I don't know who he was. Yeah, because when he said, I said, well, I've not heard it, and I had to look at the various news sites, and it wasn't on them either. I don't know where he got it from.
Well, he was ahead of the game, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And we had
It was interesting. In the Observer today, it was saying that they haven't done it for 10 years.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's been on the book. Yeah. It's been a possibility, but they haven't done it for 10 years.
Yeah.
So they dropped it overnight, which is fairly clever, really. Well done, them.
Yeah, get rid of it. And of course, we had a fascinating discussion last night about mould, which I enjoyed.
I thought he was on about moles at first. I thought he was going to go into that Jasper Carrot routine, which would have been interesting. He did about 20 minutes on an LP, Carrot, about how to get rid of a mole.
Yeah, well, we had about 10 minutes of bathroom mould, so, fair enough. Each to their own, really. And then
the idea that you just wipe it off doesn't seem at all satisfactory. Sounds like Window-Clean. You remember Window-Lean advert? Wipe it off, Window-Lean. Wipe it off, Window-Lean. So easy with new Window-Lean. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Well, right, I'm sorry. Right.
No. I'm just rambling.
The miscellany of madness.
Yes, rambling as usual. And tonight we had the dimensions of Viennese whirls, and I think you came up in the end with the top of an aerosol can.
Which is not helpful at all, because they're probably all different sizes. But this isn't somebody getting WD-40.
You clearly enjoyed your Viennese whirl, which is good. And then I think you gave the Daily Mail an opportunity for a front page, because they're not too disinclined to attack the BBC. I predict a headline coming up soon. Well-known late-night radio presenter launches full frontal attack on Country File calendar.
Well, I don't know about full frontal. I mean, if they did that, he might sell a few more, as long as it wasn't John Craven. But, some things just have to be said, don't they?
Well,
it's not going to affect sales, is it? Nobody pays any bloody heed to what I say. Why would they? I wouldn't. I don't.
Anyway, you expressed some strong feelings, which... There we are. Everybody has...
I can't be the only one that thinks, oh, here we go, Craven's out, here's a bloody calendar.
Right. Your favourite bit now, cryptic crossword clues.
Go
on. Striking success, 3 letters.
Hit.
Yep, there we go. And... Everybody on the voyage completely nonplussed. 3 words, 3, 2, 3.
All at sea.
There you go. 2 out of 2. How about that, Mr. Becker?
Hey, don't do any more after this now. Next Sunday, if you come on, you're not doing them. 2 out of 2. I can't improve on that. You're not going to do it. Never again.
That's a bit harsh. But anyway.
Okay, maybe it's harsh, but it's how I get by.
And it's your programme, as you...
for the time being, yeah. It's like at rugby, if we got 3 tries in front, I got changed and went home. I'm having no more of this.
Right. I've been looking around for stories that I tend to do that I think might amuse people if they haven't seen them. One of my favourites is the freak moose antler accident, which I suspect you may have come across, involving top entertainer Joe Pasquale, who was on tour in Skegness, no less. And part of his act involved a moose antler prop, and seemingly he was coming off stage in kind of semi-darkness and had an unfortunate collision with the fake moose antlers and got stabbed. And he was concerned that he was kind of inches away from it being fatal, but in the end, luckily, it only got him in the back of the leg. So watch out for moose antlers.
Watch out indeed. He came off in the dark and someone said, bloody hell, have you got the horn? Yeah, it's on the antler. It's on the moose.
Right. Then we had the zoo in eastern China denying suggestions that some of its bears
the baggy-ass bear.
No. I mean, initially I saw the still pictures, it were, in the papers, and I thought, it certainly looks very odd, as did the account that it had been waving at visitors to the zoo. But then I saw on the last leg, the comedy show on Channel 4, some footage, and if you looked at the backside of the bear, as it were, it looked extremely odd, and they deny it, but it does look, I should say, very strange indeed.
Yeah. But you see, apparently they're designed to go on all fours, and if they didn't have a baggy bottom, when they bent over, they'd rip their arse apart.
Well, there we are.
And they wouldn't be a big slit in it, but not in the way they want it.
Apparently, it's not the first time that Chinese zoos have been accused of passing off other animals and possibly humans, but certainly other animals as what they weren't, as it were, including dogs dyed to look like African cats and donkeys painted to look like zebras. So,
you could call them Don Quixotes.
Oh, very good. Yeah,
because he dresses up, doesn't he? Yeah, Don Quixotes.
Yes, no, that's all right.
We were driving along in Canada, minding your own business, looking out for bears and things, because that's one of the reasons you go. And I'm just driving, so I got on with the driving, and my spotter said there were some bears there. So we did when it was legal, we got to an turned around, went back, went to where it was next legal, came back, and there were two bears, and they were having sex.
Oh,
and the one at the back, who I presume was the bloke, I mean, I'm not, David Attenborough, I'm not, but the one at the back saw us stop the car. We didn't get out. I had my foot on the gas ready to go, because they can shift them bears if they don't like the look of you. And he looked up at us and thought, what are you looking at? And we thought, we're watching you screw. And he looked up and he sort of shoved the lady bear round a bush because he was a bit embarrassed. And I thought, well, that is just a shy bear. That is just ridiculous. But I said, and he probably said, I'm sick of these humans. They're all on animal porn. Leave us alone. We're just getting on here. If you don't leave us, your children won't have bears to look at, will they? Leave us alone. Let's get on with our work.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah. So I left. As they used to say in the News of the World, what was it? I paid my money and left. That was it. I made an excuse and left. That was it. Anyway, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's all right. I mean, that's what I come on for you to interrupt me, really.
Oh. Right.
Among other things. Two final things. First of all, I like scientific research, and apparently scientists have established, they say, that 4-month-old babies can demonstrate a preference for different types of art. And they showed young babies Van Gogh paintings and green corn stalks turned out to be the most popular, and they also formed the conclusion that babies like leaves, branches, and curved lines in paintings. And it did occur to me to wonder exactly how 4-month-old babies would demonstrate their preference for different types of art, but that's what the research apparently shows.
Yeah. The Oldham Tinkers, who are a comedy folk group, well, they're a folk group and they do quite a lot of funny things, and they do a song called At Our School, and there's a line in it that goes something like, doing art, I'm very good. What is it? No, I doing art, I'm very good. Miss likes me picture of a moorland bog, but it was done by our dog. I've found a new medium. So I don't... Yeah.
You should dig that out and play it, really, shouldn't you?
I should, shouldn't I? Yeah.
And finally, as they say, and not too soon, I suspect your listeners may think, I like my scientific research, particularly when it's about things that are really, really old, so old that it's almost impossible, at least for me, to kind of imagine. So the other scientific story I came across was that a 39 million years old extinct whale, 39 million years old, dear God, extinct whale may be the heaviest animal that ever lived. And they worked this out because they got a partial skeleton of this 39 million year old extinct whale in Peru. And they've come up with an estimate, quite a wide estimate, of what these creatures may have weighed, but enormous, 85 tons, possibly as much as 340 tons. That's a blooming big whale, isn't it?
Yeah. How do you weigh a whale?
I don't know.
In a weigh station.
Oh, very good. Nice to speak to you as always, Alan.
Have a good night. 0800 218 222. I'm just proving I was once 8. Probably when I first heard that joke. How do Sean?
Evening, Alan. How you doing?
Awfully well, thank you.
You don't remember me from last night? I spoke to you, didn't I?
I've no idea.
Oh, you don't remember me? All right. My topic is about ambulance services.
Okay.
So when people get ill, they go into ambulances, they go to hospital, and they get treatment, and it's good treatment, isn't it? Because they get help by doctors.
Well, one hopes it is. I mean, I'm sure it's not successful for everybody, but go on.
But the doctors do a good job at the end of the day, and when the hospital's really full of patients, they try the hardest to fit everyone in. And it's very hard because a lot of patients demand the attention of doctors, and the doctors get frustrated. And it's not easy doing the job either, because you've got patients screaming at you, swearing at you, maybe hitting you, something like that, and it's horrible.
Okay.
And do you go to hospitals?
Well, when required, I suppose I would. I haven't been to a hospital for my benefit. Can't remember.
Well, I went once because I jumped off the wall and I broke my wrist copying another lad, and it was horrible because I had to be in there for like 8 weeks, and my arm was attached to this.
Broken wrist.
Broken wrist. And my arm was attached to this operation thing, and it was horrible.
Mm.
And then they had to get. Then I had this like little TV by my bed that I had to watch, and it wasn't very good because like I could hardly see it, the screen. So it was nasty. I didn't like it. And then when I went into surgery, and they had to put me to sleep, and they gave me morphine. And then when I woke up, my arm was all bubbly, And then I told them that I was allergic to morphine, so they said they were sorry about it and that they give me different meds next time. Well, that just proves that.
That proves what?
That proves that you don't jump off the wall and try and break your wrist. Cause it's not good copying someone else.
I don't suppose that any of the people who jump off wells are doing it trying to break their wrist. I suspect it's an unwanted effect of, well, not jumping off, but landing.
Yeah, but when I tried to move my arm, it felt like a rocket. I wouldn't move it. It was really hurting. So I really couldn't move it. It was stuck like rock. So they had to, like an ambulance arrived. They had to pick me up and put me into the ambulance and put a big thing on my hand to relieve the pain.
Right.
Like, give me some meds to relieve the pain. So it was all right in the end, but it was a bad experience. I won't do it again.
I bet. No,
I know.
It's an expensive way to learn not to jump off walls, isn't it, really? But good on you, Sean. I'm glad you're all right now. How do Ian?
Hi, good evening, Alan.
Good evening.
Thanks for having me on again. We spoke last week, Alan, about grey squirrels, and we said that they were not vermin, they were simply red squirrels that had gone old. Do you remember that conversation?
I think I do, yes.
Right. I wanted to tonight, Alan, to talk about pigeons. So the pigeons are vermin. And I can't believe that you see people in town centres, pub car parks, you see people feeding them with bread, and they're gathered round their feet and they're feeding them. I relate pigeons to rats with wings. Would you agree?
Well, they're birds, then they're not mammals, but they're not nice creatures, really.
No, but they are vermin, aren't they? They carry loads of diseases.
I don't know how many diseases they carry. How many people have contracted a disease from a pigeon, do you know?
Well, how many people have contracted diseases from rats?
Well, that doesn't address the question as to... It is a good night, you're right. How do Maureen?
Hello, Alan. You said you had some ice cream and you didn't like it. Where was it from?
I can't remember.
Oh, right. Because
I didn't buy it. It was... I mean, it wasn't ice cream. There's the truth of it. It can't have been cream. You can't have cream that is vegan.
Oh, right. No, don't go there.
So it was vegan ice cream, which is a contradiction in terms as far as I'm concerned, but it was vegan ice cream, and it was off.
Yeah, because I just love vanilla ice cream, and because I live on my own, I don't get it very often because I usually eat all the tub, you know, because it's not worth keeping it, is it? So, and also I remember, vanilla, the little vanilla, you know, the smell of vanilla. We had two, in Birkenhead, we had two cafes, and they were Italian, and they smelled of vanilla ice cream. And I was only sort of 12, 13, 14, and never had any money to go and buy an ice cream from there. But the smell was always amazing. I wanted to talk about on Thursday, I had the most amazing thing happen to me. It wasn't winning the lottery. I had a cataract operation. I've got quite a few friends that have had them. And the thing was, they've always said, yeah, no problem, you know, but they never mentioned that the colours that you see after the operation are amazing. It's like going from sepia old photographs or black and white into glorious Technicolor.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, isn't it? My dad had them done, and he said the same thing. It was just amazing.
Yeah, well, nobody mentioned that to me, and I thought the first thing you've got a little plastic thing over your eye taped, and the next day you can take it off, and then you've got to put your drops in. But the first thing I saw of colour, I turned my gas hob on and put the kettle on, and the blue of the gas, you can't imagine. And I put my hand over my good eye, because my other one wants doing as well, and all I had was a little grey-blue colour. But when you've had this operation, the colours are amazing, and none of my friends mentioned it, you know. They said...
well, maybe they got a different experience.
Yeah, but... I know, but I think it's lack of imagination, because you want to see again properly, and you can't believe the colours that you've missed out for quite a few years. I've got my other eye to have done as well. Well, that'll be in a few months. But I was amazed that nobody mentioned the colours that you see, that you didn't realise that you missed them. And I thought there was no.
It's a very slow process, isn't it? The sort of growth of the cataracts is very slow.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, I read somewhere, I was told, it's about the age of 17 or 18, they start. I'm like getting on a bit, but the thing is, people know what you look like, but when you actually have had it and you take the little shield off your eye and you look in the mirror and you can't believe that you look 20 years older than you did.
Yeah, well, I have that trouble every day anyway, But
my
worst thing, I look in the mirror now and all I see is my dad.
I thought I'm going to have to change my friends for, 10 years younger than the ones I'm not. No, but there was not a problem about it, You just got there, the hospital I was born in, St Catherine's in Birkenhead, and you just have a few drops put in, and then you go in, there's nothing to worry about. The anaesthetic, they put anaesthetic drops in your eyes, and you keep still for about 10 minutes, and it's done. And then you have this little plastic thing over your eye, and it's taped on, and then the next day you take it off, and you put some drops in 4 times a day. And because I live on my own, I've been sort of wondering about dealing with the drops, because you've only got a very tiny little bottle. It's supposed to be 4 times a day for 2 weeks, and I already have eye drops because I've got very dry eyes. But this, I can't believe that not one person out of maybe 6 people I know, they didn't mention the colour that comes back into your life.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant. It was brilliant. I mean, I said to my son, I can't believe the colours. I mean, both eyes need doing, so I have my left eye done. But you just don't realise how much colour has gone out of your life. And not one of them, my friend mentioned about the colour, which was amazing me, because that's what you've gone for.
Perhaps not as observant or as concerned about colour.
There's no imagination. I just looked around the kitchen. I thought my kitchen was really drab. And when I looked at it, it's not, it's shiny. Because
there you are. The operation, I can tell you from bitter experience, the operation's cheaper than buying a kitchen. So anyone who's thinking of replacing their kitchen, save themselves 10 grand, get your eyes done.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad it worked for you, and I'm glad you're now seeing radiant colours, which is always a good thing. I went to the opticians, this is not a joke, I went to the optician about a decade ago for my, your 2 yearly eye test, which I passed with flying colours. I've had, with my bins on, obviously. But the woman who did the test said, you'll probably have to have a cataract operation in about 5 years. Oh, bloody hell. Well, such is life. Still here, still no operation. Weird. Going to talk to Simon after we've listened to John Lennon and his imagination. There you are then. Imagine that. 0800 218 2255 to join us. We're here till 1. It's about just after 20 to 1. No, 20 to midnight now, so an hour and a bit to go. I'll do Simon.
Hey, Alan. I want to talk about a lass called Rania Bilot-Sokobot. She's a Ukrainian model and actress, and her husband's a politician. He's the mayor of Kiev, so she's well connected, and she's been the first lady to appear in Playboy magazine since the war started, dressed in a patch and metal bikini. And she did an interview for the Playboy magazine in which she got shot when she was driving with children in a wealthy area of, I forget, Kiev probably. And she's been through months of surgery, scars all over her body, Frankenstein face. She's had 4 operations. And yet, I've had a look at it in the Daily Mail.
We've got that list. I'm not.
No scars
I'm not.
at all.
I'm not keen.
Gorgeous.
I'm not. Whoa! I'm not keen on the expression Frankenstein face. She's had a lot of injuries, and her body has changed. What are you wanting to say beyond that?
She's got a gorgeous face, and she's got no scars. And she's got a patch. I don't know if she's had her eye gouged out, but she's claiming that. And she's a symbol of, an heroine symbol of Ukrainian resilience and courage. I describe her as Babylon the Great, the mother of all harlots, because we're in the end times now. The apocalypse is coming. God's wrath is going to come down on us all, and it's a fight between good and evil.
Let's hope he gets you first. Good night. You're a barn pot. Get off your crackers. I'll do Sam.
Hi, Alan. You know the Voyager, the Voyager 1. He's the only he's the only machine that has left our solar system, our galaxy. He's left. So he's obviously left our solar system, and he's left our galaxy. And sooner or later we will, and it's keep going, but sooner or later we will lose contact with it because it's so far out. Hello?
And? Yeah, right, I heard you.
Yeah, I mean the interesting thing is you went past Jupiter. Is it Jupiter? Yeah, you went past Jupiter, and there's a storm in Jupiter, twice the size of Earth, and he went and he took pictures of that storm, and that storm has been going for centuries of years. It's going to end in about 20 years' time. And it took about 20,000 pictures, and he sent it back to Earth. Yeah. So
what makes them believe that the storm, which has been going for centuries, is going to end in 20 years?
I don't know. That's what scientists are saying. I have not looked too much into that, but apparently, I mean, the storm is just Jupiter's so big. Jupiter's so big, the storm is like a spot on the planet, but that storm is twice the size of our planet Earth. That's incredible. Okay. Yeah. I was going to speak about prostitution before, then I decided to speak about this. You know, in certain places in the world, prostitution is legalized under their terms. So if you want to hire an escort, you have to marry her, and marry her for a day, for a couple of hours, whatever, and then you can basically go for dinner and do whatever one with whatever you need to, whatever you fantasize with the escort. But in order to do that, you have to marry them in certain parts of the world.
Right. Seems extravagant, but no matter.
Yeah. So you could. Yeah. So even if it's for an hour. Genuinely, even for an hour, you have to go to the registry office, marry them, and then do your business, whatever it is. Yep. All right, Alan, nice speaking to you.
Yeah, and you. I learn things every day from sitting in this chair. I don't always believe them, but I learn them. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, that's good. To continue our shufti at Monday's newspapers, how the Tories cook the books to cut asylum numbers, according to The Independent. 6,000 migrants disappear from asylum lists in just 3 months, as Sunak boasts of cutting the backlog. That's from Lizzie Dearden, their Home Affairs editor. So that's what they think. No laughing matter, the Edinburgh Fringe is back, but at a cost for the artists too high. Well, still paying it, so maybe not. The Metro, Labour will use the migrant barges too. I mentioned that at the top of the programme, at the beginning of the programme. So, as I said, their motto appears to be, or their legend when they go into the election is vote for Labour and nothing will change. Bizarre. Secret Labs vaccine to plan to prevent bird flu pandemic, says the Eye. And the Daily Star to boldly do. Yeah, I know. Illogical captain. Star Trek's William Shatner reckons aliens haven't visited. But we know he's wrong, says the Daily Star. Of course they do. 0800 218 2255. And the Daily Mail says that there is a remote island plan for channel migrants. If Rwanda bid thwarted, this isn't my grammar, it's theirs. If Rwanda bid thwarted, illegal arrivals may be flown 4,000 miles to Ascension Island. Ministers are drawing up proposals to send channel migrants to Ascension Island if Rwanda scheme falters. Now, I can tell you, a flight to Ascension Island is long and tedious and damnably expensive. It'd be cheaper to put them in five-star hotels, but sounds like they're doing that already. How absolutely bizarre. They're determined to get them off these shores, aren't they? 0800 218 2255. The things we do for an island. I've only ever heard of it during the Falklands War, really. It's 4,000 miles from anywhere. I mean, it really is a long, long way. And there's nothing there. I mean, there are two military bases. The RAF have a base there, as do the United States Air Force. So that would be interesting, because if there are all these single men deported there, if you like, taken there, it's a British overseas territory, so you wouldn't have to get permission off the government of the island. The island's governed by a governor appointed by the UK, so they could just move them there. But I don't know how many empty accommodations they've got. So would it be a case of they're going to put them on the RAF camp? Well, that's kind of in use. It's not like some of the camps here that they're talking of using. It's not redundant. It's not empty. It's still being used. It's part of the way you get to the Falklands. One of the trips is to drop off at Ascension on the way. In fact, there is it's easier to get to Ascension Island from the Falklands than it is to get to it from Britain. Crackers, sounds like, but I don't know. I've never been. I don't know what the place is like, but doesn't sound too clever. But maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want people to not want to go there. But rather like Rwanda, they've been saying for quite a while now, we're going to send all illegal migrants to Rwanda, and we are going to do it. And the Rwandan government said, yes, it's perfectly fine, you can do it, but they seem to get stymied at every turn, which is really peeing them off. Right? You'll get to the stage, in fact, they're already trying to weaken the powers of the courts so that they can't stop the government doing what the government wants to do. And that's our only backstop, apart from an election every 5 years. But there you go, that's what they've got as their fallback position. If we can't send them to Rwanda, we're going to send them to Ascension Island, which is a very, very long flight and a very expensive flight for each and every one of them, which is interesting, should we say. Maybe they'll send them by boat, which means there'll be a fortnight travelling. And sick as dogs, no doubt, but it'll be a better boat than the rubber dinghies they come over in. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us, you can. If you don't, we'll listen to John. It's fairly... Most people who listen to this tribe know that music is not, by any stretch of the imagination, my strong suit. And that's fine. I perhaps don't have a strong suit. I just have some that are less weak than others. But I've heard a lot, because I've been on the radio in Manchester for 40 years now on. And so I've heard a lot of a band called Joy Division, but I know absolutely nothing about them, which is weird. I ought to. And I hear records and somebody says, oh, that's Joy Division. Really? Oh, there you go. And it's like that for a lot. I mean, Oasis, what? I know a bit about Oasis. I recognise their music, but then it's sort of Beatles with knobs on, or without knobs. Beatles with the knobs taken off. Oh dear, that's a bit embarrassing. No, Beatles, poor man's Beatles, if you will. But Joy Division and those other lot, you know, all the ones around that era, it's just straight over my head, which is weird. But we're going to play Joy Division very shortly, but we'll talk to Simon first.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Simon.
I just want to talk about the radar figures that were announced this week.
Okay.
I was listening to a programme called Feedback on Radio 4. I don't know if you've ever heard about it.
Yeah, I listened to it, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. It's saying that radio audiences throughout the country, actually, especially the BBC, are in decline. I think perhaps one of the reasons for that is a lot of younger people now just don't listen to the radio, do they? You talk to them and they think you're like some alien being if you talk about radio, don't they?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's some truth in that younger people don't listen. Well, this is an expression, a term in the business. They don't listen to strip radio on the wireless. So they don't listen to... put the radio on at 10 o'clock in the morning and listen to it till 3 o'clock, like some people do, and like many people used to do. They now pick and choose their radio in the same way that they pick and choose their podcasts and their television programmes and the like. So they don't listen to radio as it is happening. Quite a lot of people who listen to this...
do they listen to radio in general these days, even on BBC Sounds or whatever, or... I think there's so much choice out there. I think, generally speaking, younger people... I mean, when I was young, I listened to the radio a lot. I loved it. I liked the plays. I liked the music. There's a whole rich variety. And even when I worked abroad in the Middle East, I absolutely adored the BBC World Service. There was a transmitter off the coast of, I think it was Muscat, called Madeira Island, and I actually know someone who worked on the island, not on the transmitter, but he absolutely adored the World Service because that's all he could get, and it was a medium wave transmitter. I think it was 13 kilohertz, if I remember rightly. And you could have it on in the car, you could have it on. I think some of the car radios over there had shortwave as well, which you could pick up from the United Kingdom. And I just absolutely adored it. But as today's youth, they don't seem to have the attention span to listen to the Archers, let alone a 1.5 hour play.
That's unfair. I think it's their attention span. They don't want to have somebody else decide what they're going to hear. Now, with a programme like this, it's kind of different, which is why this programme does so well with young people when other programmes perhaps do not. But you said radio audiences are going down, and they are throughout the country. Indeed, I believe throughout the world.
There's no doubt about that, is there? Yeah.
Radio audiences are diminishing in number in terms of listening to the radio. But the programmes are actually listened to elsewhere. We have, this particular programme has as many listeners listening not on the radio as it does have listening on the radio, but they listen elsewhere. Now, some of those listeners listen to it live in Billericay or wherever the hell else, or Brighton or Blackburn, on the internet, on the digital palaver, BBC Sounds and what have you. And that's the same all over, which is why the BBC managers, the very top managers, have decided that BBC Local Radio and all the other BBC programmes eventually are moving from... They're not going straight away, but they're going to eventually move from transmitter radio to radio on the internet. and that's where it will end up. Now, it's not happening
will all the
tomorrow, but
transmitters
that's where it's
be
all going
switched
to
off
go.
at some point then?
Yes, at some point. I mean, I know I have no prior information. I'm not privy to any kind of information, but I would be surprised. First of all, if we're still alive in 10 years, but I would be equally surprised if we still have radio transmitters in 10 years' time. The reason for that is, as we've already established, the people listening via the radio is diminishing constantly. It's a very, very...
And, of course, it costs a lot of money to run the transmitter.
Exactly.
I mean, the ones at... in Yorkshire, I think a broadcaster with 250 kilowatts, and if my electricity bill's high, I'd hate to imagine who actually pays the electricity bill for a transmitter, because it doesn't just do BBC, it does quite a few other commercial networks. So do they collectively have a proportion of the cost to the electricity board, or what?
Well, the transmitter company, because most of them are now owned by private companies, I believe. The
Arkiva, I think, own yours, don't they? Yeah.
I have no idea. The transmitter company will. The transmitter company will pay the electric bill, and the transmitter company will charge the broadcasters for the use of their transmitter. So it's a bit like...
Because in the old days, the BBC actually owned their transmitters, but they don't anymore, do they?
They don't, because it's very expensive to organise that. You need a whole mobile team that can get around all these transmitters. Although it's a lot easier just to farm it out and say, right, you get on with that. We've now got a fixed cost. You make it happen, and we'll spend our money on programmes.
I mean, a few years ago, I used to like listening to the World Service on medium wave in Britain, but they switched the transmitter off in 2012. It was in Orford Ness, somewhere in Suffolk, I think. But it also beamed quite a strong signal over to Europe. So when I was driving in France, Germany, Belgium, Spain, and even Italy, you could pick that signal up, especially at night, because medium wave has this funny thing. When it goes dark, the signal carries a lot further, which is why when I was a kid, you used to be able to get Radio Luxembourg in Manchester.
Indeed. Yeah. One of the things that brought that about, and not exclusively so, but one of the things that happened was the government decided that because everybody, all broadcasters, have to pay the government for the right to use the airwaves. And the government decided that it wanted to take back control of some of the airwaves so that they could then rent them out to somebody else. So lots of radio stations lost their medium wave facility.
Yeah, it's really sad. And yet there aren't that many stations on medium wave anymore, are there? There's, I think, 5 Live still broadcast on medium wave. Radio Manchester used to broadcast on 206 metres, was it, when I was a kid?
No, 261. Oh, no, that was Piccadilly.
No, that was Piccadilly.
Yeah, I don't
206, which was 1548 kilohertz, and used to come from Ashton Moss.
Fair enough. That side of radio I don't have any involvement with. I just talk into a microphone and it goes down a wire and God alone knows what happens next. But
Phil Fair told me that, actually. Do you remember him?
I do remember him, yeah.
He used to read the news on Northwest after 10:35 or whatever it was, yeah.
He did.
And now he does station announcements at Stirling Bridge Station.
Well, those are pre-recorded. He doesn't sit there and do them.
Yeah, I know.
It's a very, very serious obstruction to his ability to do that.
Yeah, I know. But I don't know how they do it. They must sit him down and he must say 100 words and then they piece it all together for him, don't they?
Well, I'm sure that's what they did. Since 2016, he's been dead, so he's not really done it since then.
Oh, has he? Yeah, I didn't know that. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Well,
how old was he then? He could have been that old, was he?
I don't know. He was born in the 50s, the early 50s, so anyway.
Well, I was, yeah. Oh, dear. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that. He's a good lad, Phil Sear.
Oh, he was all right, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, going back to the radio then, so what percentage would you say of kids listen to the radio today compared with what percentage listen to it either live or otherwise in my era as a kid?
I
Is it more or less?
Idea.
I would probably say a lot less. They've got more choice, haven't they? They like the music, they like whatever. So radio listening in general, whether it be live or otherwise, amongst the youth, I think is declining.
Well, I don't know what you mean by declining.
We're going down.
I know what the word means, but I'm grateful for the explanation. But young people, the young audience isn't declining. The young audience is what it is. But the number of young people who choose to listen to the radio is less than it used to be. But it's not declining in terms of young people who used to listen to the radio no longer do so. They never have. It's not in their system. I know it is.
Yeah. Oh, it's a shame, though, because I get a lot out of my radio, and
well, that's fine.
I think it helps you use your imagination more. I think, doesn't it?
Well, I have no idea. You say it's a shame, and you're basically by that implying you want young people to do something they don't want to do, so that you can carry on doing something you do want.
No, I don't necessarily want that. I just think it's a pity that. Like you said, they do what they want to do. Right? You can't force them to do something that you did. And I'm sure there were plenty of people in my era that didn't listen to the radio. But I think a lot more did then, because there wasn't as much choice on telly and films and Netflix and all these other things. You're just bombarded with choice these days. But I'm encouraged that my nephew and my niece, who are quite young, they love the radio actually, and one of them actually sent me a play on I think it was YouTube that I actually recorded in 1976 on Radio 4 with my reel-to-reel tape recorder because they found it on the internet, and I thought brilliant, and I listened to it the other day, and all those memories came flooding back, and it was fantastic. It was a detective play set in 1947, but the actual play was transmitted in 76, and it was about, it's called Colder Than of Late by Ken Whitmore, and in those days, because the tapes only lasted 45 minutes, I had to record half of it on a Saturday night, and my mother recorded the other half of it while I was at school, so I got the whole thing. Just brilliant.
Excellent. Well, that was ingenuity in the extreme. Good to hear from you, Simon. Radio audiences have been changing since they came into existence. Firstly growing, now they're diminishing, and that applies to all radio stations, really. Overall, if you look at a graph over years, radio listening has diminished. And by radio listening, I mean people who are listening to radio from the transmitters on a radio rather than on some other electronic device. How do Steve?
Hiya, it's Alan.
I'm fine, thanks.
Good. All I was going to say was, like you're going to say, play a song from Joy Division. Later, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you know they had to change the name because Joy Division was actually a group of women who used to pleasure the German, I'm putting it this way, used to pleasure the German soldiers when they came back from the front line for some rest. They called them the Joy Division. And when, I don't know who found out what it were, but when they found out what it were, Joy Division had to change the name to another one.
Which is, or was?
I can't just bring it to mind at the moment, but Google it or something, but
you'll find out it is true. I'm not as entertainment.
They're not the force they once was, as it were. I quite like brass band music from time to time.
I know. I was just looking at a picture of you blowing a tuba.
I very much doubt that.
It was back in 2014, playing a E flat bass or a B flat bass with Black Dyke.
Well, no, you didn't. I've never done that in my life, but no matter.
Well, it must be a different Allan Beswick then. I'll send you the picture.
Well, it must indeed be a different Allan Beswick. There's more than one, I'm sure. Some are better than others, apparently. But no, I don't recall ever doing that. And I usually do remember doing odd things, because I'm not musical at all. Any road up. I quite like brass bands from time to time. I once went to the, what's it called now? A brass band festival or something like that, up in the Pennines.
The Whit Marches, that's when the picture was taken, when you went to the Whit Friday March contest.
Yeah, the band contest, that was it. Well, I can't recall playing what was it you said I played?
A tuba or a bass.
Right. I don't remember doing so. But I did once attend the band contest. It was fascinating.
Right. Well, the reason, apart from just talking about brass bands, one of my great friends in Liverpool, he used to do a conductor, the band that I play for, and I was trying to get hold of him tonight, and he wouldn't speak to me because he said he was listening to Allan Beswick. So I thought, well, the only way that I can get to talk to him is through you. So this is for Simon in Liverpool.
We don't deliver messages. Good night. Good night. How do Audrey?
Oh, hi, Alan. Wills. If a spouse that's been married a long time leaves the house to somebody other than their partner, husband, wife, can that said person contest the will, even if the person was of sound mind?
Yes.
Ah, right.
But, I wouldn't even contemplate contesting a will until such time as you've spoken with a lawyer, because it's not an easy thing to do. But in order for somebody to be able to will something away, they first of all have to own it. And
yes, that they do.
If a couple have been together a very, very long time, it is harder for an individual to say it's my house, because it becomes the matrimonial home. And when it becomes a matrimonial home, it is often regarded as the property of the couple rather than the property of one of them. So,
even
in order for one of the couples to will it away, they would first of all have to own it. A partner, certainly a married, a spouse of many years, could argue, hang on a minute, this is a matrimonial home. It's not his house, it's mine. Because the other spouse has made contribution to the home, even if they don't have a job or anything like that. So it doesn't necessarily fall to a specific spouse. But that's you need a lawyer for that.
Yeah, and it costs quite a lot of money, doesn't it?
Well, it costs a lot less than a house.
Yes. The house did belong to the person who's written the will, and she's left it. It's been left to a friend instead of the husband. She had no children.
And how long were they married for?
Oh, a long time, over 20 years.
Well, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, which is why I say you need to talk to one. But any lawyer worth their salt would be able to put together an argument that the house is the matrimonial home, not just the home. Even though they had the house when they married,
Yes.
of course, he could argue, OK, when they got married 20 years ago, the house was worth £100,000. Well, it's now worth £200,000. And both of them have contributed by their existence to that profit, as it were. So even though he could argue, well, I'm giving away my bit, which is the bigger bit, I can see an argument that says, hang on a minute, you can't give it all away, because it's appreciated in value by the fact that we have both lived in it and we've both contributed to the upkeep of it. Therefore, I've got some value in it.
Yeah, true. Right, but just wondered, because I know things are different in Germany, because I know somebody whose
Well, are they in Germany?
No, they're in England, but I know somebody whose parent they split up, lived in Germany, and he left it to the dog's home, and the son contested it, and he did win. I don't know whether he got entitled to all of it, but he did fight the case. Laws are probably different in Germany, aren't they? But I know not all of it. Pardon?
I would imagine so.
Yeah, and so I don't know whether part of it went to the dog's home or not, but I know he did get a substantial part of the property.
Well, there are a number of things that allow you to contest a will. One of them is the other person has given away something that wasn't theirs. In fact, it was mine. And so that's the first thing. You can test it. They can be of the soundest mind in the world, but if they don't own the damn thing, you can't go giving it away. So that's the first bit. The second bit is that the person who is the still living spouse can argue that I am entitled to support from my husband or my partner's, my spouse's estate, because I have been supported by that estate ever since we got married.
Of course, they'd be homeless, wouldn't they, if it went to the friend that they've left it to?
Well, I don't know their circumstances, but I can't imagine that a lawyer couldn't find an argument for that, but they would need to talk with a lawyer. The person who is the disappointed party, the still living spouse, needs to talk with a lawyer.
Okay, thanks for that, Alan.
All right, cheers. It also depends, of course, on whatever else is in the way. If he says, I'm leaving my terraced house to the dog's home, but the £5 million I've got in the bank I'm giving to my spouse, then it's going to be a bit, so it depends on the rest of the property and everything. How do Emily?
Hello, how are you?
Awfully well, thank you.
Can you hear me okay? I'm not too loud or anything.
You are fine, thanks.
Okay, that's good. So I want to talk about two things. The second one is radio.
Okay.
First one, I just want to reiterate what the chap before Audrey, what was his name, Steve, was talking about. Well, Joy Division. So they originally started off called Warsaw, and they did release an EP under that name. They then changed their name to Joy Division, which, of course, the Joy Division were prostitutes. That is correct. But what the other chap was talking about, absolute nonsense, just made up nonsense. They were Joy Division the entirety of the time. They were that four-piece. They stopped being Joy Division when Ian Curtis hanged himself, and they then regrouped after a while, and Gillian Gilbert joined, and then they called themselves New Order. But the reason why they stopped being called Joy Division was because, their main man and main songwriter wasn't there anymore. He'd hanged himself. And obviously when they decided to carry on making music with a new member, Gillian Gilbert, they probably thought it probably would be a good idea to have the same name, so they chose New Order. But they did not the entirety of the time Ian Curtis was alive, they were known as Joy Division. They were not known as anything else. Only briefly prior to being Joy Division, they were called Warsaw. But they didn't change their name for the reason that other chap said. That was absolute rubbish, just made up nonsense. So, radio.
Go on.
I love my radio. I've got 3 of them. I listen to Radio 4 and the World Service. When your program goes off at 1 a.m., I'll be over on the World Service. And I understand people want to listen. I mean, I do listen to old radio shows, which people have uploaded to YouTube. I've been listening to 1940s broadcasts of Sherlock Holmes. Rathbone and Nigel Bruce not only did the famous films of Holmes and Watson, but they also did radio shows of it, so I've been listening to them, and I've been listening to entire episodes from 1950s of Paul Temple. Do you know, have you heard of Paul Temple?
The detective, yes.
Yes. Yeah, and these are like 2-3 hours, because it's like the whole series. I think BBC Radio, oh crikey, what is it? Radio 4 Extra did broadcast these, because I seem to remember listening to them several years ago, but I've now found them on YouTube as well. So I do listen to the old radios on there. I can understand people want to listen to on their phone, you know, but I find kind of reception on listening to things like that on the phone can be a bit tinny sounding. I think that I agree with you that probably in 10 years we won't have radio as we know it. And to me, because I think so many people over so many years have got so much from listening to the radio, including comfort. I think during lockdown, a lot of people found a lot of comfort from listening to the radio, you know. And it's going to be a great loss.
Well, it's going to be a great loss to a few people. But
well, I think maybe more than a few.
But the current evidence is that it's not a great loss for those numbers that are already shifting their process of listening to radio programmes.
Yeah.
So,
but what do you have any evidence in front of you? What sort of radio are they listening to? Is it music stations, or, for instance, something like Radio 4, which doesn't generally play music? Would Radio 4, would that type of station still exist in 10 years?
The station will, yes. Whether it will be broadcasting on a transmitter network, my view is unlikely. But it will still exist. It'll just, instead of being...
I mean, the thing is that if radio disappears, and then it's then basically replaced by chart-type music stations that just... I mean, there's like then there's no speech radio, there's no plays...
That's not what's happening, and that's not what's going to happen. The best way to think of it, and it depends on your age, but many years ago, television, when it first started, was broadcast on a system called 405 lines. In other words, at any given moment, there were 405 lines of information on your screen. And it wasn't enough. That was just black and white, and it wouldn't support colour. They couldn't get enough information. So they decided to launch 625 lines, and for a long time, both were being broadcast simultaneously. So you could listen on 405, or if you were flash and modern, you could get 625. And then they introduced colour, but only on 625, because they couldn't do it on 405. And colour carried on, and now there are, to all intents and purposes, no black and white televisions at all, and 405 transmitters were turned off years ago. So all that's happened is people are still turning the telly on and watching the telly, but the process by which they get the pictures is different to it was many, many years ago. And that's what's happening with radio in a slightly different sense, in that more people are getting their radio programmes, including this one, on the internet. We have as many people listening to this programme right now on the internet as are listening to it on a radio.
I think that the good of having, people can listen to it on the internet, because if you couldn't listen to it on the internet, you would have to be within the geographical range of the transmitter. For instance, if you were in Edinburgh, you couldn't pick this show up.
Correct.
So they're on the internet, so they can pick the show up. But I'm hoping that, when they get rid of all these things, there's still going to be interesting radio programs like, plays.
Well, there still will be. Radio 4 will still be doing.
He doesn't do it anymore now, does he? What was that one Melvin Bragg did on Radio 4 for years?
Well, he's done a number of programmes for years on Radio 4. In Our Time, I think he's still doing.
In Our Time, yeah. And things
He's still
like
doing that.
Yeah, and the World Service has some really interesting documentaries. And I'm hoping that we keep things like that as well. I mean, I don't...
We won't keep everything, because we've not kept everything when we broadcast it via the radio. The output changes, and one of the things that will happen is the output will continue to change, but you will get your radio eventually via the internet. That's how it will be.
I think the World Service will stay, because before it was the World Service, what was it? The British Empire Service? Is that what it was called?
I wasn't around in those days.
No, but that's what it was. The British I read up about this a few weeks ago. It was the British Empire Service, and then that became the World Service. I can't. Who was it? Or who was on before that said that? That having the radio, listening to the radio, it does. You have to use your imagination. If you're listening,
but you'll still have to. It will be the same.
Though, I mean, I've got a laptop, but you don't want to be
the noises
staring in front of the screen.
Emily, the noises that you hear currently via your radio, you will hear via another device, but they will sound the same.
So it would have to be over the internet.
Exactly.
Or mobile phone.
Using the internet, yes.
So, this will be then, will this be like when they turned off the analogue signal from the televisions, and so then everybody had to go digital?
That is exactly it.
If you've got a manual radio, I've got one manual radio, and I've got 2 DAB radios. So, at
Emily,
some point,
there are no more questions. No, you won't get anything out of them. No, just like if you switch on a 405 television, you won't see anything.
Well, I hope that they will do this gradually, because quite a lot of people are attached to their radio.
They will do it gradually, and people are already doing it. People are already getting rid of their radios. If I needed to buy a radio now, I wouldn't bother. I'd buy, at the very worst, I'd buy a DAB. At the very worst, I'd buy a DAB. But
I've got two DAB radios.
Emily, there's nowhere else this conversation will go. Emily, there's nowhere else this conversation will go. It is happening. Get over it. How do, Dave?
Oh, hi, Alan. How are you?
Hiya. Very well, thank you.
Hiya. Yeah, good. I've been meaning to call in for a long time. I've been a long-time listener, first time caller, as they say. And I'm currently in Australia. And as you can hear, I'm not from here. I'm from Halifax. And I just wanted to say, I was just speaking to a lovely talent there, and I just think it's such a shame that you'll be retiring soon. I mean, you might have a different point of view on that, but yeah, I mean, what do you think?
What do I think?
Well, I mean, are you? You've often said that you'd carry on as long as they would have you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does that still stand, or are you feeling? Is it feeling a little bit sweeter the closer it gets?
No, that still stands. But
yeah,
I'm being dumped because the system is changing.
Yeah, and I know, as you say as well, things have got to change.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I still just think it's really unfortunate, because I think once something like this is gone, I don't think you'll get it back.
Well, you probably might. I don't know. I mean, I've done these programs in 4 different places now. Here, in Newcastle, in Melbourne, believe it or not, and in Preston. So, and many people have told me that it's unique, but I honestly don't think it is. There used to be a guy in Australia who was networked, a guy called John Laws, and he was doing this kind of thing way before I ever did, and doing it far better than I ever have.
But was he doing it from oh, sorry, go on. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that has happened, there are stations that have opened up now that are phone-in stations, if you like. They're all speech. And one of the things that you have to do with that is you select a topic or a few topics for each programme, so they're not all talking about the same thing all day, every day. And we don't have to do that, because we're just here on our Todd, as it were, so we can say, what do you want to talk about, and just follow whatever the audience wants it to do. So that's a sort of, these days, slightly different than most phone-ins. But it's, it's just how it is. The world needs to change. Well, the radio, as we were just discussing with Emily, the way broadcasting is going, it needs to change. And lots of people now, although the figures on this programme don't seem to bear it out, but we're talking about a whole series of 40 BBC local radio stations, which are changing in order to keep up with where the audience is going. It's no good, like that woman at the theatre in Edinburgh, you don't know, but in the Edinburgh Fringe, she booked a theatre and, gave posters out and handbills and all that, and then only one person turned up, so she was equal in number to the audience. It was her one woman, so one woman turned up. And we're in danger of not following the trend, and you'll end up with somebody like me sitting here talking absolute rubbish like I do on a radio, and he's talking to nobody because they've all moved to the internet and he's not on the internet, so gone. So it's all moved. I mean, you have to go where the audience is.
Yeah, I mean, there has been changes, but I'm like sat in my van now. It's not running, I'm just parked up, because I'm out of the house, because my missus, she can't do with listening to this station. Anyway, I mean, I absolutely love it, but I sat here, got Bluetooth, earbuds on, got my phone running. So, you can see things have moved on. You can listen to it in a whole new way. But, I mean, the thing I like about your show, and I'm wondering if this John Laws was similar, is that you'd say there's no such thing as fair or anything like that, but it's the angle that you have, and perhaps it lends itself to having a show that you can talk about anything. There's no I say, I don't know. There's no negativity almost. You know, you sort of listen, and I don't know. What I mean to say is, over here sometimes there's talk shows on the radio, and it's kind of right wing. They've got an agenda, all that sort of business. Whereas you seem very, you've just got an ear for everyone, and I love that. And you don't give advice as such, but yeah. So,
well, thank you, Dave.
I mean, was John Laws like that?
I don't know whether he was as open as we are. He tended to have a particular position, but you know, most phone-in presenters have a position and defend that position, as it were, which is fine. That's another way of doing it.
I was going to say as well that the main thing I love about this show as well is because I'm in Australia, I absolutely love hearing all the accents and the variety of people mostly from up north, you know, and it's just it just sounds so reassuring when you hear, you know, someone from wherever, from Bolton or Scousers, you know, all them, Glenn, whoever, you know, it's lovely to hear everyone. You know.
All right. Well, good to hear from you, Dave. Have a good day, I suppose it is for you, but enjoy your Monday, which is now well and truly underway, of course. How do Paul?
Hello. I would like to talk about Joy Division. I remember the group from 1980 and 1977. I think they were going then. But the lead singer sadly committed suicide, Ian Curtis. He had epilepsy and he became depressed. And when he ended his life, Bernard Sumner, Peter Hook, and the other two, they call them, they regrouped and made the group into New Order, they call themselves. But you can still buy CDs in HMV, and it says Joy Division on, because I bought some recently. So as far as I can see, it's just like a back thing history. They never had to change the name, they did it, because they lost the lead singer. And the thing about Joy Division, it was female inmates in Auschwitz prison who were forced, more or less, by the prison guards to please the prison guards, if you know what I mean. But I won't call them prostitutes, they were forced into it. And so that was in Auschwitz, the Joy Division, the group of women who the guards picked out, and they'd keep them alive for pleasing the guards, sort of thing. And then the group changed its name to New Order, and that was them blue-eyed blondes in German Adolf Hitler's time. They were called New Order, and they were breeding them like in camps, like in getting the SS to father children, and they called them a New Order because they wanted them to have blue eyes and blonde hair. And
the continuation of the pure Aryan race was the objective. Paul, thank you very much indeed. How do David?
Hello, Alan. I was listening to this Saturday session, and there was subject of finding life in outer space. It's something I think about from time to time. I just, if people live forever, they may never ever find life out there, and why anyway? There's enough on Earth to study and conserve, I think. Which direction do you go to find it if you want to look for it? It's just infinite possibilities. I think space exploration, though, is a very interesting thing. I mean, the photographs that come back from the Hubble telescope and the like are just absolutely mind-blowing. What's the latest one? Is it Webb? There's Webb telescope has gone out.
Yeah, there's one just gone out. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called.
No, I can't. And the first one, one of your callers said it went out in 1977, we're still getting signals back from that picture, are we?
Yeah, it was a thing called Voyager, and it was launched by NASA with the sole intention of travelling in a straight line as far as it could. And it's now some 12 billion miles away.
So it's incomprehensible distance, isn't it?
And still sending signals back.
I find that quite astonishing, really. Yeah.
It is. It is absolutely astonishing. It's been going for 45 years.
But I think, as one astronomer stroke scientist said, he said the probability of other life forms is very high. We're not, he said, I don't believe we're unique. Why should we be anyway? Really?
Well, I don't know. Every speck of dust is unique, so why not?
Yeah, indeed it is. Yeah.
So every ice flake, every snowflake is
indeed.
Unique. So
indeed it is.
Maybe we are, but maybe there are other forms of life.
Indeed.
I don't suppose the life elsewhere is bipeds such as ours, but that's not to say there isn't life. We'll never find out, you and me, will we? It's too late for us.
No, we will. The place you were in Wales on Sunday, we used to pass through there going to Carnarvon. I'm not Welsh, and please, the good people of Wales, if they hear me, apologies if I get it wrong. But when I was in the area, I think it was pronounced Yvelen Heli. But when you first said it, you were very close to that. And I'm not saying I'm right on the pronunciation, but
well, one of us might be close. Who knows?
Well, yes, I think if you were, somebody and said that you were there, I think they'd know. I don't think it would be far out. I'm quite fascinated by the Welsh language and place names, like mould, spelt like YR. That's the one word, YR, and then WYDD GRUG. You see that sign on the road as you just get into the A55. And I think it's actually pronounced Withcrig.
Well,
and I'm fascinated by the spelling and the pronunciation, so I do my best to learn, because I go into North Wales quite often. So,
good on you. Cheers, David. How does Steve?
I'm sorry, I rang earlier on, and the lady came on about the Joy Division, and she said, they were doing prostitutes. They weren't. They were forced into having sex. That's really all I'm saying. They weren't prostitutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that correction. How do Cornell?
Hi, you're right, Alan.
I'm very well, thank you.
I just want to talk about the problems for people my age. I'm 20 years old, and I think the economy right now in the gutters, and it's just really difficult for people our age to live. I mean, how are we supposed to afford a deposit for a mortgage?
Well, it's going to be very, very difficult for you, but of course, 50 years ago, ordinary working people didn't get a mortgage. So we now have different ambitions, as it were.
Yeah. I think it's mad, though, because my granddad, he said when he got his house, he got a mortgage, no deposit, and it was very cheap for him, and he was a joiner. And it's, for me now, the only way probably I'm going to get a house is through inheritance. And people might... Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I'm just saying, you're absolutely right. That is almost certainly the case.
Yeah, and for people my age as well, all this social media is really concerning, because a lot of people, for me, I can say I'm addicted to social media. I go on every day, but I have to catch myself out and realise what I'm doing, because it's not healthy.
Well, I can agree with you there, Connor. We've come to the end of the programme, so I must say thank you for your call and good night. But yeah, social media is the curse of the devil, you might say. But yeah, it must be difficult. The trouble is when you're 75, and I'm not far off that. But when you're 75, if you start thinking about, well, I'm glad I've had it like I have, then you just sound like that knob in the corner of the pub, don't you? So I'm not falling into that trap. But I think my generation, the absolute early post-year lot, I think we've had the best of everything. But I also think we've wasted quite a lot of it. I know I have. I've been Beswick, back next week, Saturday at 10. Till then, have a cracking week. Ta-da!